When I read it, I realized it was written with so much spunk. That's the only way to do it. You compete with yourself, you set goals for yourself. I'm not saying it because I've been let down by role models. I can do anything. Because that's a lesson that is very easily forgotten when you're in a comfort zone. My boyfriend then and now husband Rishi and I went on a bike to Ladakh. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why can't I just put my bike in the car and put it on social media the way people do now? Reaching out to me to engage with me to continue having the fun that I was already having. Invited to speak at multiple speaker bureaus. Trust me, self-doubt is lurking at every corner on social media waiting to bite you and grab you. Hi, this is Gul Panag and you're watching me on TellyChakkar.
Well, there are very few actresses out there जिनको शायद एक boss lady वाला खिताब देने का दिल करता है, and I think today I have one of them sitting right next to me. Gul, firstly, welcome on TellyChakkar. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And I truly mean the word that boss lady, and it's not because how you carry yourself, but it's like, as they say, like, if a lady wants, कुछ भी करना नामुमकिन नहीं है उसके लिए. It is truly like it suits to you.
Thank you very much.
But I am very keen to know because I have never seen you doing roles for the heck of it. Like आप वो भेड़ चाल का हिस्सा कभी मैंने बनते हुए आपको देखा नहीं है. Until unless there is something good in that character, you wouldn't say yes to it. So now I am very curious to know कि इस वाली में ऐसा वो क्या X factor था जिसने गुल को हाँ करने पे मजबूर किया है?
Well, two factors. The X factor was actually I had just finished my law degree in June. First call that I got after that, the next month in August, was from this team, and they said this is the part of a lawyer. I said yes.
No questions asked.
They're like, but like you want to hear the part? I said Vikas, Behel and Chaitali are producing it. It's a lawyer part. Yes. So that was the X factor, but the Y factor, which came as a retrospective thought, one day before the reading, I was like, अब तो reading हो रही है. I've agreed and everything has been locked. अब तो पढ़ लो भाई. So I was reading it and I just went with my gut. One, because I was excited at the idea of playing a lawyer. Of course, it's a different matter that I'm not doing anything lawyerly.
Yeah.
In this, there's no courtroom drama. I mean, I'm just, जो business of lawyering का है ना, जो firm चलाने का business है. That is what you see here. एक law firm में उसकी internal politics, उसकी internal rivalries, उसके ऊपर ये कहानी है. When I read it, I realized it was written with so much spunk. In my opinion, the writing is genre defining. In fact, genre redefining. And Maya's character just blew me away. And I was very curious to meet who was playing Maya. And when I met Samriddhi, she was very unassuming because when you look at her, you can't tell what's beneath. But the moment she started reading, it was like a bulb came on.
Whoa.
She's incredible, very hardworking, supremely talented. And what is written on paper in terms of the script and what she's delivered is from here to here. Like she has given a dimension to Maya that I didn't think was possible.
Wow. But then, saying that she has given a dimension to Maya, and you have done a law degree, like you just got done with it. I'm very curious to know, जब set पे थे तो क्या बता रहे थे कि ये चीज़ गलत है यहाँ पे ऐसा होता है? Like, did you have those points there?
So I think again it was not a courtroom drama.
Yes.
And if it were a courtroom drama, I wouldn't know much because एक 3 साल की वकालत की पढ़ाई करने से और actually courtroom में जाने में, even for real lawyers, is a big difference.
Yes.
It's like one thing is going to film school, and it's a whole different thing to come on a film set and see the chaos of all that's happening. Totally. Right? You have to actually experience it. But I think there were a few little technical things like terminology, which I was like, no, that's not the right term. And again, I was coming from a place of just helping.
Yeah.
They'd already had a lawyer run through everything. But there were some changes that were being made on the fly, like improvisations in dialogues in a particular scene. And if I felt they didn't stand like whatever I knew a little bit by then, I would mention it. Like even in Family Man, because I come from an armed forces background, it's not that it's about knowledge, but it's about small things like when a soldier walks past a commanding officer, he has to salute. It's difficult to explain to somebody who's not from an army background these small nuances.
Yes, totally.
So things like that.
But then I would personally say that I do not end up following a lot of actors because हम रोज उनसे मिलते हैं. But then there are few actors जिनकी life is quite a fascinating one और वो सिर्फ दिखावे के लिए नहीं है. She practically loves traveling. I got the inside news. Ladakh जाके she came back. You are a cycled. She cycled.
Ladakh तो बहुत लोग जाते हैं.
She cycled to like Ladakh and she like so that I just said to her like next time I'm gonna tag along and request her. But then seeing how you have practically work-wise by God's grace, touchwood, personal life, bang on, and then this. Like a role model for the fans out there. So how do you balance all of this all together? Like what is like the end thing for you? Like how are you balancing?
I think I'll start with what you said in the last, which is the key really here. I have the opportunity to influence people.
Yes.
I have the opportunity to impact young lives. And I take my role as a role model very, very seriously. I have for the last 2 decades.
Yes.
And the one thing that I thought I should do if everything else fails is never fail at being a role model. Because you don't realize how many people are watching you and getting influenced by the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat people around you. So it has been my constant endeavor to always be a role model. Maybe there's a little girl out there. Maybe there's a young man who is short on confidence and he sees you speaking a particular way. Maybe somebody's losing their marbles over something and then they see how you handle a tricky situation. So you can always set an example. I also feel that and that is my outward conduct. I also feel that eventually any external role models you have, and I'm speaking from my personal perspective. So one is to be a role model for anybody who may see you. And I have really worked towards making sure that whenever I'm in public, I conduct myself with dignity in any public interaction, with respect and dignity. As a parent, it is now even more critical that I at all times behave in a manner which doesn't pass on or normalize behavior patterns for my child which are undesirable. Lastly, I think for me personally, to answer your earlier question, I think eventually any role models you have will let you down outside.
Yes.
So I strive to be my own role model.
Setting the bar for yourself.
That's the only way to do it. You compete with yourself, you set goals for yourself. And I think I'm not saying it because I've been let down by role models. I'm simply saying it, there is the best kind of competition in the world is with yourself. And now for me, it's about setting goals that I don't need to set, but I want to set because I like competing. I like setting a goal, I like achieving it, I like challenges. Also, one really important thing that a challenge and overcoming it teaches you, each time you overcome a challenge, a difficult situation, each time you set a goal and achieve it, you get a sense of achievement, you get a sense of accomplishment, you get a sense of, I can do anything. And that feeling is so important because we have that feeling when we are in our teens.
Yes.
Because we have a whole life ahead of us. In our early 20s, we still have a whole life ahead of us, though sometimes the environment around you begins to jade you. By the time you come to your 30s, you begin to look at life through jaded eyes. And you stop believing and realizing that you can actually still be anything. And I think setting these goals for myself, setting these targets and then going ahead and achieving them, and they're hard sometimes, right? Reminds me that I can be anything, I can do anything, I can get knocked down and I can get up again. Because that's a lesson that is very easily forgotten when you're in a comfort zone.
Indeed, I think.
And I like putting myself outside comfort zones. So while of course my boyfriend then and now husband Rishi and I went on a bike to Ladakh before people like in 2002, 20 years ago.
Yes.
There was no other civilian car on the road except for the army vehicles and the Indian Oil trucks that were going up there to stock fuel for the winter. And we did that. And run tons of late trips, tons of adventure trips. But the idea of cycling to Ladakh was something that an extended family member of ours did. And I was like, wow, it just set the bar this high. And we planned. Unfortunately, the pandemic came, but this year we said we've got to do it. My father was 73. We wanted to do it this year because maybe next year he may not be able to do it, although he claims he'll be able to do it.
Let's hope that one.
We cycled and it was incredible. It was lung shattering. I thought my lungs would burst because you're going from about 10,000 feet after you cross the Rohtang tunnel all the way to 17 plus before descending finally into the Indus Valley. And I thought many a times, why am I doing this? We had cars following us because anything can happen on a trip like this. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why can't I just put my bike in the car and start listening? And then Nihal would pass and say, way to go. And I'd be like, I've got to do it to show him that his mom is truly incredible.
Indeed. Well, I think next time when you plan such things, no, I should be on a speed
Done.
because I would tag along. But then, talking about your kid, like, I'm sure that there might be a lot of movies, characters that he has seen, and some of them he wouldn't have seen. But then, koi aisa hai?
He hasn't seen anything of mine.
Nothing. Oh God.
Because I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do is not age appropriate.
Yes.
Like Patal Lok, we started watching, but then the killing with the hammer, then we just had to put it off because we can't watch it with him.
But then, how does he react when he sees you ever like on a screen or a poster or something? Like, what does he say? Like, "Mummy actress hai?
I
Mummy
think when he was about 2.5, maybe no, actually less than 2. Maybe he was about 8-9 months. We were flying somewhere, and there was a girl in a ponytail.
Okay.
On those LED screens at the airport. Those live screens. And he just kept looking at her and kept looking at me, thought he was me. And then his thing of mine that he watches the most is a series I produced called Off Road with Gul Panag.
Yes.
It's on YouTube. Keeps watching it. So he knows I come on TV. He knows I shoot for films. So he knows I'm here promoting my new show. I mean, if I were to call him right now, the first question he would ask is, where are you? Where are you is a standard question because I'm all over the place. And second question is, when are you coming back?
Wow.
I think for him, he still hasn't quite digested.
Accepted that, yeah.
Because I think that will begin to happen when in school he begins to see people react to me differently.
Yes.
He's too young to appreciate that. Or the mom's reacting differently. The kids probably won't know who I am anyway.
But I would want to know one day that, what would his reaction be when he would see any of your work or maybe a character of yours?
I think the only actor he loves and likes is Tom Cruise because he's seen Maverick 5 times. Before that, he's seen Top Gun 100 times.
It's okay, I also like it.
Yes, it's okay.
It's okay. But then, I am very keen to know, I think I will not contradict myself. There are a lot of actors who have either done works to maintain a bond, or they wanted money, or maybe to just be seen on the screen and, be a part of that race. Have you ever done a project that, you feel that lies in any of these categories or something for the matter?
No, not really. I'll tell you why. The last film I did was Ab Tak Chappan in 2012.
Yes. I saw, yeah.
And they didn't do a film for 6 years. And it's not because I didn't want to do film. There were just no parts for...
Good parts for you.
For me, yeah. Yes. I mean, good parts, to be honest, yes. I used that time to go back and finish my master's degree. I used that time to go and get my pilot's license. I went and produced...
That was quite the benchmark.
I went and produced a bunch of shows. And you know what happened? This happened at a time when social media was becoming part of our lives. And suddenly, my life outside of being an actor became fascinating for people and brands.
Totally.
And there I was having outreaches from sporting brands because I ran marathons for real.
Yes.
Not just like Ek Baar Bhag Liya because I want to be featured in the local newspaper. And the period of 2000, for the election in 14, the period of like 12 to 17 was... The 5 years were just such an incredible time because I had so much freedom to do whatever I wanted. There was no film work of consequence that I would like, but I used that to live it up. And I wasn't trying to put it on social media the way people do now.
Yeah.
And those days there was like Instagram was just like nascent. I would put stuff on Twitter, which was being consumed by everybody, journalists, brands.
Yes.
Soon I had engagements, like very, very interesting brands reaching out to me to engage with me to continue having the fun that I was already having.
Indeed, I saw that.
And suddenly, my persona outside my actor image began to become larger than my actor image. 18 onwards, I began getting cast in films and projects because they were casting the persona. So I'll give you an example. When Raj and DK met me for Family Man, they were casting a persona because they're like, oh, she looks the part. But they also thought I was Kashmiri, and then they were sorely disappointed because they gave me this monologue in Kashmiri. And I'm like, I'm not Kashmiri. And they're like, no, just suck it up and learn it. So,
but did they get to learn any Kashmiri words?
I mean, I had a full monologue where I'm dispersing a crowd mob that's mobbing Manoj. Anyway, so the thing is, then Puneet Malhotra cast me in a Student of the Year too, which initially when I was first cast was a very different script. It changed, became a much smaller part. But he said, I wrote this part because in my head, they could not have been a fitter coach
than you. Yeah, I totally agree.
So I was like, wow. Then again, I was pursuing fitness because it's been part of my life since I was 15. I wasn't doing it to prove social media points. So I realized that all the work I got over the last 5 years now has been as a result of what people see me outside. No, I haven't done things for the sake of doing.
Grace, yes.
The other thing is I realized that if you want to do the kind of work you like, somewhere have to step away from that work as your primary revenue stream. So by design and by default, I set up a production company, then there's another 2-3 entrepreneurial ventures I invested in. But most importantly, I invested in my brand as an individual without consciously investing in my brand. I do a lot of motivational talks.
Yes.
I get invited to speak at multiple speaker bureaus. So I realized that if I have to pursue the kind of work that I want to pursue, it must never be because of money, because that would force me to make decisions that I would later regret.
It should be only because you were passionate enough for that.
But at the same time, I actively did work on creating revenue streams and finding other ways to keep myself, not stupendously millionaire-ish, but make sure that I have other revenue streams.
I can totally tell you this thing that now at least a lot of people who are watching us or maybe who have followed you are not only following you because, she's Gul Panag, the actress.
I hope so.
No, they're following you because she's Gul Panag, the Gul Panag.
So I think that's because I try to be the most authentic version of myself. And you know what? Whenever overcome by self-doubt, and trust me, self-doubt is lurking at every corner on social media, waiting to bite you and grab you. Whenever I look at somebody and I'm like, oh my God, she's so amazing and she has all this, and I just go back and saying, who are you and what do you stand for? And then I just feel going back to the most authentic version of who I am has always worked well for me.
But Gul, it was a pleasure having you here on TellyChakkar. What do you have to tell the fans in the end? Because I'm sure as much as I enjoy talking to you, they're going to love watching you in this one.
Zaina is going to come up with a surprise. Zaina is going to be saying things I have never said before. So that's a hint.
Wow, okay, now she's leaving me quite on the hook. But then I have enjoyed my conversation with Gul Panag. You guys do tell me in the comment sections that how did you find our chat session? And until then, this is me, Vishakha Pandit, signing off from TellyChakkar. Know all about the Telly world by subscribing to TellyChakkar's YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated to our new videos.